All right. Hold your breath. And
Okay.
that's just a joke. Hey, welcome to the Big Story Podcast. I'm here today with Sebasti An Pi Riz, phenomenal artist from Argentina, right?
Yes, Argentina.
Yeah. It's a great, that's a bit of a distance from here. And you're time traveling because you're an hour in the future. So I'm going to ask you for some hot stock tips or something later so we can get some ideas to make some money off of this. Whatever's happening in the future, I should be able to benefit from that now. Sebastián, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Let me just say, big internet fan of your work. I've been watching you post things, for the last year or two, and I just something I can't remember, like, I don't know, it's just not too long ago, and I'm like, I'm just going to ask him, like, let's see if he'd be happy to come on and talk about his journey and his process, and you were kind and said yes.
Well, thanks a lot. Thank you for what you say about my work, and thanks for inviting me. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, I think I'm gonna, what caught my eye with your work originally was the sweet spot of Spider-Man for me. You draw a phenomenal Spider-Man,
Yes.
and what is it about Spider-Man for you that you like to draw?
I would say that the first thing is that I didn't get Spider-Man as an artist. It's like I tried the first times and it didn't work, so I tried more, and then, well, these drawings that I upload on Twitter, and that they are what I do when I'm tired of working.
Okay.
More or less. So you're drawing 5 pages, 8 pages of people talking, and then you need to draw something like as if you were a kid.
Right.
And Spider-Man is perfect. You do 5 lines trying to make them interesting, and you have Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it's perfect when you're trying to have fun.
I've always found that for some reason, when drawing Spider-Man, for me, it always unlocked a looseness within my figure work that for some reason I just couldn't naturally apply to every single character, but for some reason you can bend him in ways that feel right and just are exciting.
I'm in a personal crusade to maintain that looseness you can get from sketches,
right,
to in the final art, because it's very common, at least for me, to make a super dynamic sketch, and when you begin to okay, this doesn't work, the arm doesn't bend this way.
Yeah.
When you're actually finishing the drawing, you lose a lot of that energy. So I try very hard to find a way to maintain that energy and making an image that kind of works,
right.
Because you can draw an art that is broken. So yeah, it's like I do that for having fun, but it's also a way for me to try to improve and find new things to do, because again, you're working on a 5 issues series, and you can't change the style
No.
by in issue 3. It's not like you're working for 4 years in a series, and it's natural that you will evolve. You have to kind of maintain a style. So doing these things, I learn a lot that then I can apply to the next project, the following pages. And a big part of what I try to learn is to maintain that energy from the sketch to the final.
It's crazy. It's tough. Like, you know, and I mentioned it before, but there is this interesting thing, like when you start out drawing comic books, your process is not very complicated. You have a very sort of simple approach to it. You're like, okay, I can get the story down on the page, and then I'm just going to draw. Then you're going to finish the drawing like as quickly as possible, and then as you get sort of more, I'm using air quotes for anybody listening, but you get more skilled, you start adding more tricks into your pocket, but sometimes those tricks make the drawings less active because you're.
Absolutely.
And it's an interesting process because we used to get like, we would start like drawing on copy paper and then light boxing those drawings through, but like every time you redraw something, it kind of loses a little of what the original like gesture was.
Yes, and also, you know, uh, these days you can't draw a comic without looking for reference.
Right.
Because that's the truth is everybody does it, and your drawing will look bad if you're trying to figure out something that all the other artists figure out looking for pictures for. It's part of the art, but for action poses the reference sucks.
Yeah.
It takes so much from what you can do as an artist. I was drawing a flash while I was waiting, and I found a guy running, and I tried that pose, and the guy looked super dynamic. But when I was drawing the guy, it looked like Flash is standing, like it's running. So yeah, the reference, understanding how to use the reference, and I'm not trying to talk like an artist that can teach, but from my personal process, right? Understanding how to use the reference, when you need to lean on it, or when you need to step away from it. I think it's very important, and
it's almost like it needs to be like in many cases, especially like with maybe like action based comics, that it needs to be that this sort of the jump off point. Like, okay, I've got the idea, like here's the jump off point, and then like, okay, so maybe you're looking at that reference to see like, okay, how's the drapery working? Again, can I sort of accentuate the drapery by stretching things?
Yes, I for action poses, I check for reference after I have the pose I want. So like to see, okay, how does the muscle of the arm works when the arm goes back, and stuff like that. But okay, again, that when you check for reference, the right the right thickness of the line, the lightning, and all those things take away from the energy of the sketch.
Yeah, absolutely. You when you mentioned the Flash, like what popped in my head initially was when Carlos Pacheco first got on the Flash back in like, well, I don't know, like 1997 or something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man! Like it was so exciting the way he drew that character. He just, that guy was running.
Pacheco is incredible.
Oh yeah.
His work and his lead run he did in Fantastic Four, that he was also writing when they came back after Peter David, I think, when they came back from the Heroes Reborn universe.
Yep.
It's so fresh, so dynamic, and the designs are super simple, but of course his work on X-Men, I knew him when he was drawing X-Men. Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah, he's such an outstanding talent, and it was just, but like his dynamism with his figures has always been so impressive. I think it's like it's a matter of like, I mean, listen, this is why like, doing life drawing is so important, drawing from real life, because it allows you to capture those gestures, from the real world. And then now when you have to do it from your head, it's even, it makes it easier.
Well, I find it very complicated to when I had fun with the action poses, but when you have to draw somebody in real life,
Hmm.
like talking, like having a coffee, and there's so many micro gestures, to put it a name,
Yeah.
that's when the reference is useful. Because yeah, of course, real life drawing is super useful, and you learn a lot, but it's impossible to have in your head all the little details that somebody,
Oh,
all the little, I know, I see that I'm leaning to a little bit to a side, that the gesture in my hand, I will never draw a hand like this,
right.
and that's where reference is useful. But when you use it, when you lean a lot on it, the drawing begin to lose life.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. Instead of gaining life by those little details that you can't have every single detail in your head of what people do when they are having a conversation,
Yeah.
but if you use it a lot, the drawings begin to lose that dynamism you need for
Yeah.
comics.
It's a super, it's a very sort of a, like, it's a razor's edge. You have to kind of walk to be able to get that,
Yeah,
both of them.
it's not easy.
No, and I think, and you're so right, because I mean, now with the sort of ease of getting reference, that it makes it, it's almost, like you have to do it, like, because everybody else is doing it, and
Of course.
so things look so much nicer. I mean, the artwork on, you know on average in comic books is just so good. The tools are so powerful that anybody can really make things look phenomenal with enough effort.
I have always liked one Facebook post by Eric, I think, where he says he put one Captain America boot drawn by Jack Kirby and one Captain America drawn today, and today's boot is with all the I can I forgot the word. Well, all the details of the boot.
Yeah.
Of course, it looks amazing, and nobody can say that Kirby was lazy or didn't
Oh,
draw good. But Kirby's boot is 5 lines. Well, his post is about the time it takes to do a comic today. Kirby used to do like 3 comics per month, and we can barely finish one. But yeah, we have everything there. You don't need to buy a book to draw a tank,
right.
and you use it, and not using it is like, I don't know, playing soccer, in wheelchair. You can do it. You will be in the field, but everybody will do it better than you.
Yeah, they'll just run. I mean, they'll run around you, and it is kind of, it's interesting, because I mean, and it's not a matter of like, okay, here's a picture of a tank, and I'm going to trace the tank. It's just having that reference, because I mean, you can be a very style, like Mike Mignola can use reference and draw a
Of course,
tank, and it'll look like that tank, but it won't be this traced out drawing of a tank. It'll be
it
Mike's image of a tank.
all the tools. I use a lot of 3D of SketchUp.
Right. I was wondering. I wanted to ask you about that, because I was reading in Canto, um,
Yes,
and like you had this carriage, and I'm like, my God, this carriage is insane. And I'm thinking like, well, he's
yes.
probably using a 3D model and just moving it around, but then doing his drawing of it.
I did that courage in 3D. I have a lot of fun doing 3D, so it's easier for me. I learned to use SketchUp. Um, yeah, it's the same. You have. I'm drawing a. I'm making a book with a spaceship as a character.
Okay.
Like, I don't know, the Millennium Falcon, the Enterprise, my ship. I pretend. I try.
Right.
And I I love to be, I don't know, 4 days drawing the ship every time that I need it.
Hmm.
Like drawing and painting ships like Juan Jimenez, those amazing ships he used to
Yeah.
draw. But I just don't have the time, and I
Right.
want it to look good. So I did this very detailed model of a spaceship, and you can place it, but then you have to make it work. You can't just put paste the model there and it's okay. It's done.
Yeah.
I think it's easier for me when I color my work, because I can make it work with my line work better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the robots in We Ride Titans are 3D models.
Okay, really? Okay, that's amazing. That's cool. That's great.
I made those robots from scratch. I Before starting issue one, I was like a day or two making the robots, and then SketchUp, it's not like software for animation. I don't know how to put rigs. I think they call it. I don't know how to put articulations in the model. I have to move the parts
The parts, right?
like stop motion. Okay,
Right.
so it's a lot of work. It's not like I'm saving a lot of time in the end,
Yeah.
but every panel will have. It's not because it's me, okay, but every panel will have a beautifully detailed robot.
Yep.
Beautiful as much as I can. Okay, everybody will say if it's beautiful or not, but I like to believe that I like to see that. Okay, let's put it this way. I like to read a comic where with robots where you can see all the parts of the robot.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do all those details in the time with the time I have.
yeah. Where did that desire to see all the parts of the robots come from? Like, did it come from like early days of seeing Robotech, or Macros as a child?
I was more a transformer
Okay.
guy. But yes, yes, or all the parts of the spaceship. I love that when I see it, you can see the windows and you can see and it works because I took the time for when there's a page in this book that I'm telling you that the classic cut out of the ship like the Star Wars books
Hmm.
where you see the interior of the ship and it works. I made sure that it works and it's the kind of things that I like to see.
Yeah.
And with the help of 3D, I can make that relatively easier. Uh, I know how to do perspective, but it's boring for me at least.
Yeah.
I admire the people that does perspective all the time, but you still have to know about perspective because it won't work if you paste a model that doesn't work with the rest of the panel. Okay, but yeah, it makes it all very easier. But you have to rewrite, and it's a constant battle.
Yeah.
I can't say I learned to do it right. I can say I try all the time to do it right.
Right. Yeah, I mean I guess I mean the big thing is like you know I mean like like your artistic sensibility is saying I want to see all these details in the drawings because that's what I like, and it's almost like you don't it doesn't matter if it takes you the equal amount of time as it would have to sit and draw the whole thing every single time from like a model sheet, like just okay, I've done a model sheet and I'll just draw the
Well,
part.
I love to have that time. I love to have the time to say, okay, I'm 3 days drawing this robot because I have fun doing that or doing or drawing crowds of people. I enjoy it, but all the fun is killed when you have to deliver, but some date and it turns into anxiety.
Yeah.
And you're drawing the details, and of course, you have to pay attention to the narration. Okay, you can't make all the details in the back of the panel, all those narration rules. But when you have a close up of the robot, I like to see the screws. Everything.
I know. I know. I get it. I mean, like there are things that like I'm really like when it came to drawing, like that were important to me always to make that they always needed to look good or right. Like I loved drawing guns, and like I was very proud that I could draw any kind of gun in any angle. Like that was an exciting thing for me because that's what I want. Like I liked cars, love drawing motorcycles that had too many parts to show, but
yeah,
you know,
motorcycle. But yeah, of course, cars when drawing the right shape of a car, it feels good.
yeah,
Now, making 5 pages with a car in a comic, when you have to have the right shape and you have to make it look good in every panel, it turns into anxiety for me. And that's where the SketchUp and the 3D helps a lot to have fun. All the tools I use are to have fun. And sometimes there are things that make it faster, but I can't I step away from that. I don't use it. um, I think it's very important to try to have fun doing this, because otherwise it's like, I don't know, you can see it in the page when you're
Sure.
not having fun.
Oh yeah, no, I mean and everyone has to draw those. Everyone has to draw those pages. It's the unfortunate part of the
Yeah.
of the business is that drawing the pages that don't excite you are part of it because they exist. Because it can't be a giant fight scene for a whole comic. There's.
I love that.
I
Yeah,
know, of course, everyone wants that. But it's
because I love to read books that have serious part and slow parts, because the books are better. But
yeah,
as an artist, I like to have one book that is from page 1 to 22, a big fight.
yeah,
That's
yeah, for sure.
I,
Those are the best.
yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. And like I think when you were talking about like liking to draw crowds or robots, and I mean like you have to also like know and ahead of time how you're going to approach the script that you're handed, because you do have there is a time limit.
Yeah.
You can only take so long to get that book done. So it's a big challenge to say like I can't go completely insane here because I've got to get this page done today.
Well, the good writers know about this, and when they give you 5 very complicated pages, they try to give you 5 easy pages.
Yeah.
I found this, and yeah, I can say that. But well, if they don't, there are tricks. There's lots of tricks. I don't know. There are lots of crowds that are barely shapes,
Mhm.
because I don't have the time
Right.
to do something that. So instead of going for people that looks like people, I go for a feeling.
Yeah.
Like you have to feel that there's a crowd, even if you don't see the crowd.
Sure.
I don't
Sometimes
know.
it's behind them
And I don't know if I do it right. I don't know if I'm there are things that go through my head when I'm trying to finish these pages that have a lot of people. Uh, yeah, I was working on a comic that in a part the character says, every place I go it's full of people. The characters say that by issue 4, I believe, and I say, yes, I know. I know, I understand what you're saying. So that had a lot of people. But yeah, the problem is not drawing the people. The problem is the time.
Yeah, right. Of course. I mean, I think left to our own, an artist left to their own devices will be happy to take. Hey, if you could do 2 months for one issue, you'll take that
Yes,
time. That's what you get to do
but
twice.
yeah, that's a double-edged word. Many artists, and I think I am among. I am in the middle. Many artists, when if you give them all the time in the world, won't ever finish a book.
Well, okay, yeah, there has to be a deadline, regardless
Yes.
of and yeah, you're right, because ostensibly that artist will take the regular amount of time to do that one issue.
I'm halfway there. Deadlines are good for me. I wish I had more time,
Right.
but I know that if I had all the time in the world, I just I don't know if
Uh,
I think I finished the books, but very very slowly.
it's super tough. I mean, that's always the case is, the death of a project. I remember would be someone saying, "Yeah, cool, this is great." Like, listen, no rush. There's no time. There's no, and I'm like, "Oh, no, 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 no. You have to give me a
Don't
deadline."
ever say that.
Yeah,
Don't ever say that to an artist.
you'll never
Don't
see this. Yeah, you'll never.
please don't do that.
Yeah. No, it's the worst. So I mean, so Transformers was like kind of the thing for you. Was that sort of your early, like, is that
But Transformers, He-Man, when I was
okay?
a little child, then came the Ninja Turtles.
Right.
Uh, I think that I started drawing with the Ninja Turtles,
Okay.
trying to make them look good, not not start the drawing, but I started to try to make them like they other people will like them. And then one day I opened an X-Men book by Madureira, and it blew my mind because I understood what was intuitively. I understood what was having a style.
Hmm.
Because when you're a kid, you see just drawings that more or less all of them look the same.
Yeah.
Like the characters in Robotech didn't look much different than the characters in the X-Men cartoon for a
Right.
kid.
Yeah.
But Madureira had a very specific style, and I say, okay, I want to do this. I want to draw comics.
Yeah.
It's an issue where that starts. It's an annual issue that starts with them playing baseball, a classic baseball issue,
Right.
and the Morlocks attack, the new
Okay.
Morlocks attack.
Right. Okay. So that's sort of a spin-off, I think, of they started a annual back in the early 80s with another baseball one. So that was like number 7. So that became, which is kind of a legendary annual, and I'm sure that's sort of the idea was like, hey, let's bring that idea back.
Yeah,
How old were you when you saw that Madureira issue?
13,
Okay.
13, 14. I'm 12. I'm not sure.
That's
My,
that, that's about right. That's, I guess that's around the time. It might be a little early, in the ability to kind of see the differences, in the artwork, to really like say like, oh, this is style. Like this isn't just a comic book. This is different, even though it's still a comic book.
yeah, but comic books. There weren't comic books at home.
Yeah.
I watch cartoons when I could, because for the young people there wasn't uh, cable channels
Right.
all day with cartoons. You have to wait for and I there wasn't comic in my home, so I started buying comics because of the X-Men game.
Okay.
I saw an X-Men issue uh, in the newsstand, and Shimli was Portacio. They were awesome, but they all look kind of the same,
Right.
and then Madureira was different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
He was a phenom. I mean, he was 17. Um,
that's, yeah.
yeah, I mean, Joe started around the time that I started, and he was actually, I think he was doing the covers for yeah, he did the covers for a Cloak and Dagger Ghost Rider thing that I did. I did the interiors, but he did the covers, and I mean, he was 17 years old at the time, and he was, a
Yes,
kid.
yes, his story is incredible, and also a bit depressing when you don't do it at that age.
Well, yeah,
You get older, and you start to think, this guy did but 17, 20 years, and even today I see kids. I see them as kids today,
right.
with 25 years old, that are so good,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
It is a bit depressing, and it took me so long. I understand that it was hard for me, and I don't know if it were easier, I would have made it sooner. I
Right.
consider that I made it. I'm not drawing a big Marvel title, anything, but I consider that I made it.
Yeah.
I live from this. Okay, that's it. From here, whatever I get, it gets better. But I'm happy with what I have. But I'm 40, so
Right.
it took me a lot of time to work regularly on comics, and part of that is that today's indie comics are way better than they used to be.
Oh,
They most of them pay in time, and when I started working on indie comic meant you almost surely you wouldn't get paid
right. Yeah.
in most of them, and you have so many so cool publishers today that
It,
are doing
it's
it,
amazing.
it that didn't exist back then. To have a career back then, you have to it had to be Marvel or DC, and today you can have a healthy career outside of Marvel and DC.
Yeah. I say it all the time. This is the golden age of comic books because of the variety of work out there, and it's all being done at a really high level. It's not this. It's back in the 80s, like going way back, like as far as indie books go, man, there were like 5 that were like looked professional. You would have a
Yes,
Nexus by Steve Rude, you would have a Matt Wagner comic, you would have a Mike Grell comic, but Mike Grell cut his teeth at DC. So it's not like he was an indie artist. He was a
yes,
guy. So it's not the same anymore.
and it was a big risk for them.
Oh, for sure.
It wasn't like you could live from doing indie comics, and it's something recent. Um, um, it's great. I think it's great because there are so many incredible comics coming from all the great indie publishers today.
Yeah.
And that makes it's I think it's a golden age of comics because it
Mhm.
makes all better. Everything is better.
Oh yeah, no, undoubtedly, top to bottom. So what was it like? What was it? You loved cartoons, you loved video games, and then you got into comic books. Like, what made you say, like, I want to do comic books? Because that's
As a kid, I remember saying I want to work at Disney because
okay.
I like to draw. I always like to draw. My mom used to say that she could give me paper and some pencils, and I will stay hours. So it's in my genes. I
Okay.
love drawing, but I didn't have anybody to tell me, okay, with drawing you can do this, you can do that, you can do, I don't know, commercial drawing, you can do. So it was luck. It was finding comics in a newsstand
Okay.
about stuff that I like. I have some old issues of Flash that were way over my head. The old Flash that I didn't know that existed was taking drugs to be fast again, and I
Oh,
was a kid. I was
right.
a kid, and I know today that it was a great issue, but back then it didn't to
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just knowing that you can do it, understanding somehow that anybody can do it.
Yeah.
I studied graphic design because that's like a career where you can use drawing. I couldn't finish when I studied it, and then I did say, okay, well, I'm gonna try. I have to try, and it was difficult because I, it was the not the origin of internet, but yes, the first years of using it to 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 meet people
Right.
overseas. Okay, I'm not that old to say the origins of internet, but
Yeah.
you didn't use internet to get a job,
Yeah. So
So
I guess that's early 2000s. What is that around, like when you first started saying, "Hey, I'm going to try this"?
yes. When I decided, I started the college in universities college, college in 2000.
Okay.
I finished high school in '99,
Hmm.
reading Authority and Planetary.
Right. Oh,
Always a couple of years later than in the US because they had to translate them and publish them again. I didn't read them. One day I started buying comics in English because somebody said that comics in English uh, get you can sell them for more money,
ah,
which I understand today that it's stupid. But back then I started reading in a foreign language that I didn't fully understand because somebody said that. I have a couple of cool issues. I have Thunderbolts 1. I didn't. Thunderbolts 1 is the first issue I bought. I didn't understand a thing. I barely knew the Masters of Evil. I
yeah.
didn't understand English enough to want to get that these guys are not who. That page was what?
Right.
I still have that comic. I think that was a good buy, but most of them no, of course. Um,
Right.
but I learned English thanks to the comics too. So all my life gravitated to comics.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Okay. So what was so how did you I mean I'm fascinated but fascinated the idea of how you went about trying to get work because it is so different than how I went about it because I was in New York City and I would,
yeah.
I could go to the offices and talk to people and show them my work. So
Well, I think 5 years sooner, 5 years before I tried, I wouldn't have. I couldn't. You have the mail address to send snail mail.
yeah,
I think I sent once or twice, but we all know they don't check them. I mean, maybe they do, but I wasn't good enough anyway. So there was a digital webbing forum had a work for hire forum, and then
oh,
there I sent samples to through email,
hmm,
and I got to work on an indie publisher famous for promising big paychecks based
sure,
on sales that nobody ever got. I think they changed the name 3 or 4 times, and they keep making some
right,
comic. But back then they wanted to launch a line. I drew a couple of issues because before releasing they weren't paying. But with that, I went to another publisher and I say, hey, I have this uh, published work,
hmm,
and I jump from work to work that way until Twitter, and Twitter was a big change.
okay,
Uh, I, I was friend with an artist that went big very quickly, and I got like depressed. I was stuck making a comic that I didn't love. That they were great people, but I was kind of I wasn't progressing because of the thing of the being consistent. and and then I met this guy, great guy. He deserves everything he has, but I was like he learned to do comics in like a year and a half or
wow,
less. He worked a lot to do that, and then he got a job in Marvel like right away. And I was trying, I was trying to get that job by that point like for 8 years,
wow,
and that killed me. Not because that he didn't deserve it. He totally deserved it. He's great. He's amazing
yeah,
and a great artist. But for me, because I say, come on, how come this guy that started after me do it and I don't? So I started drawing because I realized that I was bored. I wasn't happy with what I was doing. And you post a drawing, you get 10 likes. You post another drawing, you get 20 likes. One day you get 100 likes,
right,
and I don't know, when one writer retweets you, one artist you love comments your work, and from that, always having a portfolio with pages. You can get a shop only doing fan art.
yeah,
You need to. They have to find work.
yep,
I got all the work I have right now. I didn't look for it. I got it from people that found me
hmm,
and offered me a shop. I don't understand how that happened.
well,
I just understand that because of that kind of depression, I I started doing the things in another way to have fun with this work. It's pointless if you can't have fun with it.
yeah. Did you? I mean, like, so I mean, like, so you, I mean, you really, I mean, you got depressed. You were down because I guess I mean, I mean, if I'm putting words in your mouth, you can tell me
Yes,
what is you saw that like, hey, the world isn't responding to my efforts the way that I feel that they should be responding, because I'm seeing someone who I know and care for get what I want.
It's not them, it's me. It's not that they don't want new artists. It's not that they don't want Argentinian artists. It's not that they are full. It's that I'm not doing the things that I need to do.
Did you, I mean, like, did you, I mean, was there a period where you were like, did you consider like not following on? Like, did you go like, well, maybe this isn't for me, and I'm
Yes, but not because comics, because the reality of my country. There was a period a few years ago when it was very, very difficult to get the money from the because of the restrictions with the economy of my country. My country, I, I I love my country, but the economy is always a mess.
yeah,
There's not a month since I understand what happens that you can say, oh, the economy is quiet, you can project things to the future. And there
right,
was this period when it was very, very difficult, when I know, you do one commission and they can't pay it to you, they can't pay you. So back there I say, yeah, I can, because even if I get the job, I can't. I know there was one payment that was stuck and I couldn't get it, and I ran out of money, and I said, yeah, I can't keep doing this. um I tried looking for I mean, the first years I was working on comics, I was also working on in a factory. For 7 years, I went to a factory, I went back home, I drew comics till 3 a.m. I woke up very late, ran to work,
right.
and that until one point when they offered me a cool job, I left the factory, and that cool job turned out wasn't so cool.
Oh
So
no.
I found myself in big trouble. But the first years were that all that problem, very difficult. And then happened what happened with this guy. It was like a life crisis. You have to do things different.
So what did you, I mean, what did you do? I mean, like was there a moment for you when you were like, and then like something changed inside you and said, okay, here's what did you have like a here's what I'm gonna do, or did you just in desperation just start posting pictures on Twitter?
No, no, because I didn't mean to post pictures to get a job. I just the crisis was, okay. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I need to have fun. I
Right.
need to
Okay.
enjoy it. So I'm not sure. Okay, I mean, I started drawing sample pages where I tried things different. I did have I did try to do things in another way, and I think I got a couple of offers because of that. Um, yeah, I actually got eight pages in Marvel for a Christmas story
Okay.
because of those pages that I tried to do all that. But that didn't change my career the way stupid fan art did,
Sure. Right.
because because my stupid fan art, I know, made my work to be seen. That changed. I think that changed everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean that like when you post your, your sort of single panel sketches that you put up, whether they're colored or not, I mean, they're really, really fun. Like, I mean, you're clearly trying things that aren't on your page work, like, so like you're like, hey, I
Yes,
try a different kind of brush or a different kind of pen, you know, to get a different kind of line, maybe some more texture here, maybe you're adding whatever the thing is. And it's exciting because you are kind of trying form and techniques that I don't see on your regular page work, which is kind of cool.
I try to. Some things don't for sample pages. You can, when I upload a black and white Spider-Man and I'm doing a painted comic, I can't use that. But I try to incorporate things that I believe work to 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 the pages. Yeah, I try the the layouts of the pages. I do have a lot of my experimentation on with these pictures I post,
Yeah.
or coloring techniques, or maybe a brush. I like a brush, so I start a new work with those brushes.
Well, it's,
I try to incorporate that to my work, but it's not. You can't put everything. You can't draw pages that way.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, like,
Not even covers. You know.
no. And that's, I mean, I mean, it's an interesting thing because, like, like thinking of like Bill Sienkiewicz, like Bill Sienkiewicz drew very sort of standard comic books for years and years when he was young, and in into the late 70s, and then he got on Moon Knight, and he was still drawing it very straightforward, but he must have had conversations with the writer and with the editor saying, hey, I can kind of do more than just draw,
Yeah.
this thing. And he was able to sort of expand it. Now, you do have stuff like that. I think it's the Black Beacon, which is very, very colorful and painterly, and
Yeah.
very designy. Like that stuff is really like, it looks to me like you're taking sort of like the experimentation and applying it to those
Well,
pages.
but there, that's a story we created with Ryan from scratch. We sold that with the first pages. I did the pages without an editor or anybody. So yeah, I was having fun, pure fun.
Right.
Drawing and painting whatever I want. Yeah, I don't feel the confidence as an artist to talk to an editor and say, hey, I want to do this crazy thing.
Right.
I accidentally did something weird with the colors in a cover that wasn't announced yet for Dynamite, and I presented it to the editor to. Sorry, I can't remember the name now. I presented it to the editor and say, hey, I have this. I'd love to do this. I can do something more traditional if you want.
Right.
And he said, no, no, I love it. Leave it this way. And I was happier than if he said, I'll pay you 5 times what we agreed. I was so happy that day.
Hmm.
I'm gonna show you the cover later because
Okay.
I can show it, of course. But
Sure.
but I don't feel that confidence. I don't think I have a name or a weight as an artist to say I want to do these things, these weird
Yeah.
things. I
I
try here and there,
sure.
but but yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I'm so happy with people paying me to draw that I don't want to mess it up.
sure. Well, yeah. I mean, we do like to be able to eat. I get that. Like having a roof over our head is kind of a thing. But like I think you did that work for that publisher that didn't pay you early on, but you were able to take that work and use that as the
Yeah,
proof of like, hey, you can give me work because I can do the work, and someone gave you work and do that. Like, I mean, Sebastian, there's so many pieces that you've put up on Twitter that are these experiments of color and and line. They're ridiculously cool. Like like they're there, man.
thank
Like
you.
like I don't know. I mean, like I get it. Like I get it. Like because I've like I would never say my artwork was stylized. Like I just wouldn't say that in form because of just maybe that's the that fear of like, well, it's got to look like a comic book,
Yeah,
and it was also in the 90s. It wasn't a very experimental period unless you were
no,
adding pouches,
no.
speed lines and pouches. But and it's like but like there's a chunk of me is like, oh, would it when I do something that is stylized, I'm like, oh, it would be kind of cool to do a whole thing like this, like, and I get that impulse.
I have, I want. I've been thinking. I want to ask somebody to draw like black and white with one or two colors. I
Right.
want now, right now, I want that. I, I
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want, I want to do this, and I feel like, they hire me and we agree on something, and maybe I'm coloring it, and then I have to say no, but I'm coloring it, but I want it to be black and white.
Right.
I can't do that. You know,
Right.
I feel
Well,
that I can do that.
I
I
mean,
try here and there. I try as much as I feel that I won't betray the editor, the writer, because they see my fan art, but in the end they hire me because they see my pages, because uh, the fan art calls your eye. You can find me because of that, but I don't think anybody hired me only because the fan art, because they are professional editors that need to know that I can do pages, and they go to my. I have a Tumblr page
mhm,
that I use a portfolio, and they see that I can do pages.
yeah.
And I think that I do interesting things with the pages, with the layout. I try a lot with the design of the pages to do cool things, but not what you're saying. I can't. I don't feel confident enough to offer to do a full comic in the style that I do.
Well, I hope you propose with a writer a story, to do a short series, like, but that sort of allows you to sort of express that fun that you're talking about, but with the drawings throughout for the whole thing, because I think you can, I know you can do it. And I just, I'm sure there's plenty of people beside me who like, oh yeah, I can't wait till he unleashes that, on page work.
Yeah,
Um,
that will be great. Yeah, I guess I need to go through this stage of people understanding that I can deliver the work, that it
yeah,
works, and feel confident about it. The COVID and a couple of things made me late on some deadlines, so I've been worrying about that.
right.
I want them to know that I can do it. I can do it. I can do it better. I can. It works. I've been having great reviews. Luckily, um,
Yeah.
some book that I did at the beginning had some terribly reviews. somebody once said somebody once said they should fire the editor that hired it guy. This guy.
Oh, wow.
That
That one took out two people in the review. Wow. It's
yeah,
they
that was yeah.
weren't just
Not
going
only
up.
only one too. Uh, these days, luckily, I've been having some very good reviews, and I'm happy about it. I hope I can find the confidence to start proposing more weird stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
And
like everyone loves We Ride Titans. That's been a
yeah,
real, it's been great. So
well, but
I
there's also besides. Okay, let's get me back to the ground again.
mean, okay.
I wouldn't know how to put that into a comic with so much um, personal moments like We're at Titans. I
Right.
need to learn to do that, because I can't have big fight scenes where all the colors are weird and the lights are weird, and then go back to something regular for the people talking.
Well,
I have to find a way to make that work too.
yeah. No, no, I totally get what you're saying. What popped in my head when you said that, first was how they handled uh, Into the Spider-Verse. You
Yes,
know, like that, those action scenes are really colorful and a lot of stuff going on. But the regular scenes still had a fair amount of color, but they didn't have that sort of explosives of texture.
but it works. It works
Oh yeah,
so
yeah,
good.
yeah. But and
Yes,
I think that's kind of like, if I say like, okay, not stylistically, but I think sort of like, as a model of form, that's kind of what I think, like, where you could probably like look in. And also think about like Chris Bacallo. Like Chris like started doing comic books and was doing the Sandman, which, and like these, he wasn't going crazy. His artwork was really kind of like very, like, it was great, but it wasn't
yes.
what it became. And he kind of unloaded, some sort of like need to make it look a certain way, and let himself make something that kind of what he wanted to. And look how like the response was just overwhelming.
Yeah, Chris Bacalo is another guy that blew my mind back then. And now he comments my Spider-Man drawings. And I play it cool. I say, oh, thank you very much. But
I'm
at
gonna
this
blow
side
it.
of the screen,
Blow it
I'm like,
next
I
time he does
can't
it.
freaking believe this.
Yeah, I'm gonna blow it for you next time he comments on the Spider-Man drawing, and I'm gonna embarrass you. That'd be great.
I try to play it cool, professional. Oh, thank you very much.
Oh yeah.
I appreciate.
Who are you? Why are you bothering me on Twitter?
No, yeah, yes. And this Chris freaking Magalo. I can't
Yeah.
believe this. Yeah.
No,
Okay. Yeah.
dude. Everybody who loves Spider-Man, which is everybody, loves your drawings of Spider-Man. Like, I mean, if you're listening to this and you have not seen Sebastian's drawings of Spider-Man, go to his Twitter feed, which is Sebasti An Pi Riz, and it'll be in the description, and check them out. They're awesome.
Thank you very much.
Well, so full disclosure on a huge chunk of the source of my love for those drawings is you've captured what is some of my favorite Spider-Man drawings, which is what Michael Golden did with Spider-Man, specifically in the Marvel Fanfare 46 it was, or 47, somewhere like 46, 47.
Yeah.
And he did it's just a one-shot story with Spider-Man and the Hulk. And if you like comic books that are a fight from page 1 to the end of the thing,
Yeah.
this is
that kind of story.
This is a 42-page fight with Spider-Man and the Hulk, and it's ridiculously good. So I'll send you a link to it so you can find it, but you absolutely have to check this one out if
Yes, please.
Yeah, you'll love it, man. So like, I mean, when you were like, I mean, it sounded to me like your mother was she was supportive of you drawing, like
Yeah.
it was.
Yes, a lot in a somehow irresponsible way. She was supportive,
Right.
but yes, yes, she was very supportive. When I was a child, she pushed me to pursue it, to pursue drawing, and when I was a grown up with a kid, I said, okay, I'm leaving the factory because it's very difficult for me to do two things,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna be an artist full time. She was supportive too. Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Right.
she was great in that. I don't know if I can be that supportive to my kid. My kid now is he's 18.
Yeah.
A couple of days ago, and I went through. He wanted to study graphic design, and I told him it's great, but it has these bad aspects. The clients will always want something that is not creative, and so yeah, I don't know if I can be that supportive as she was.
It's tough. I mean, I can recall my mother, I don't know how long ago it was, 20 plus years ago. I remember her saying like, like how she was so happy, like what I was doing, what I was doing. She goes, but she's like, I really kind of like regret having sort of like pushed you so much into the arts, because it's not an easy life. It's not,
No,
I
not
mean,
at all.
even graphic design isn't easy. I mean, there's a lot, while there may be a job available as a graphic designer, as you said, clients, will make your, and the thing is like everyone gets into graphic design thinking they're going to be the one designing the logo or whatever the thing is. And it's like, you get the job, you're all excited, and they're like, okay, well, here's some hang tags for some, some sweaters that are going to go on sale. You need to design the hang tags, and you're like,
Yeah,
hang
and you design the most beautiful, and they say, no, I want this, and they point to something else, and you don't understand why they paid you to copy that.
right.
It's a very frustrating shop in art.
It is. I mean, I mean, the thing is, but the bottom line is, man, like, work is work. Like every job is work. So it's not all just, and it's not 22 pages of a fight scene. That's what work is.
Yes.
There are going to be pages which are not going to make you happy, and that's work. And you're going to have to get up and you're going to have to go, all right, well, I got to draw these pages because, yeah, and you can kind of look at least in comics, you could look at the script and know that there's a fight in 4 pages. But till then, but like at worky work, real work, jobby job work, you don't have a script.
Yeah. No. 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 I see. I saw through the years terrific artists that don't work on comic because they can't do the boring pages.
Yeah.
It's and you see them do these great art and even great pages, not just great illustrations. And it's such a shame for the medium, for the artist. But well, I understood with the time that some people just prefer to do a regular job and do comics or illustrations in their free time, and that's totally valid too.
Yep.
That's just another way to. I don't know if I would have been able to do it. That I'm sure I back then I couldn't. Back then only wanted to work at Marvel or DC.
Right.
With the years, I understood that. With the years and the development in the industry, I understood that that will be cool, but it's not the ultimate goal for me anymore. So maybe if I had today experience back then, maybe I would have worked in some regular shop and dedicate to arts in my free time. I don't know. It's an option, but you have to be mature to those options that you have to be way older than you are when you take them.
Yeah.
Way mature than you are when you are actually in the position of taking those decisions, but
Yeah.
making those decisions.
I don't think most people are they are we're driven by our passions. So I think so we want to do the thing, so then we often do the thing while the yeah saying, okay, I'm going to go work 8 hours, and then in whatever free time I have, I'll make something that I really want to do, um, instead of watching television
Yeah,
or going out to dinner or whatever the things are that are the distractions from that sort of passion project.
yeah,
Well, I mean, I listen. One of my all-time returning fantasies was always like, I wish I could just go work in a bike shop, like go like be the guy in the back of the bike shop
yeah,
fixing bicycles. Like I'm like that seems like that's nice, like
yes,
it's a
yes,
job.
yes. I watch a lot of videos of videos of people making things.
Yeah,
The guy from the Mythbusters or and that looks like a cool kind of profession of shop that
yeah,
obviously back then I didn't even know you can do that. Yeah, the thing is the paths we choose when we are kids, they define everything you're gonna do it through the rest of your life, and I don't regret it because I always say, even today, I couldn't do any other thing. I couldn't just quit comics, and I don't know. I wouldn't be happy, especially knowing what it is to do comics,
yeah,
and it is very frustrating. And people won't reply your emails. You will have problems to get paid. You will have. Luckily, I have wonderful editors and great writers, but it is very difficult. It's not easy to work doing comics. I wouldn't say I recommend it to everybody. It's a very lonely work. I am a
right,
very lonely person, so it works for me. But that's very difficult for a lot of people.
yeah. It is. I mean, it is. I mean, and with all sort of like I guess freelance work, but comics especially, the hours are not short; they're long, and it's a really tough racket. And I think there are great advantages of what we have now,
Yes,
like with Twitter and other social media that allow you to put your work out there so a wider range of, people can see it, along with editorial people can see it, and writers to say, hey, I found this artist is great, we should consider this guy for the book. um, it's nice because, I mean, historically it was, okay, save up your money or whatever it was, and then go travel to a comic convention and hope that you can,
Yes.
catch the eye of 3 or 4 people.
I went to, I I wasn't able to study art, but I went to some short classes, courses. Okay, and I studied a few months with Juan Bobillo. He drew the dance lot run of She-Hulk.
Okay, wow,
You know,
okay.
yeah, he's I love his work. He's so good. And he told me he went to the US because the extra step of living in Argentina with his folders work like 2 3 times, and they kind of ignore him, but not because the editors are bad and they don't want to, because you are one more guy in a crowd of guys. They
Yeah.
they have no idea anything about your life, and even if you give them the right pages, they may not have the right shop for those pages at that
Totally.
moment, and they won't remember you when they need somebody like you. It's so difficult. There are so many steps, and internet makes that way easier.
It,
There's also a lot more of people doing it because of internet. I think for the editors it must be like they get emails. They must get emails all the time.
yeah, there was, I mean, I remember I lived in New York City for 25 years, so I would, going to the conventions was just part of the deal. But I remember
Yeah,
going after I was out of the business, drawing in the early 2000s. I went to the New York Comic Con one weekend. I'm just like, oh, I'll go down. And there was this whole row of young men they had an artist alley, and
yes,
they were all from Portugal, and they saved up their money. They all got a big old table together, and they flew to New York. Probably stayed in one hotel room, all
yeah,
7 of them, and were there for the weekend, so they could go meet editors, and they could meet as many people as possible.
yeah,
And they were phenomenal. Like I said, this was probably 2002, 2003, so it was a while ago, and they were so good because it was before like Marvel and DC were using a lot of artists from overseas. It was before stylized artwork was kind of really making an impact at the big two. And these guys, I can't say kids, but I mean they were young. They were phenomenal. They had just really great styles. They had drawings, pages of X-Men. I'm like, oh my god, like it was beautiful.
yeah.
And I'm sure they all did really well as a result because they were there.
Yeah, being there face to face must be very important because I can send I can send a cold email. Um, uh, yeah, it is very difficult
Well,
to get a job that
no
way.
internet back then, Sebastian. Like there was no Twitter, there was no
No,
Facebook.
back then, no.
So
No.
I mean, they
And there
couldn't.
and there are lots of stories here of managers that took the place overseas
Oh
to
yeah,
Italy,
sure.
to Argentinians work to, and that took a big chunk of the money from the
Hmm.
deal. So there are a lot of terror history here of what
Yeah,
was to work on comics in the 80s and 90s in Argentina, because we had a cool industry, I would say, till mid 80s.
okay,
But after that, you just can't work here. You can't make a living doing comics here in Argentina. The sales of the comics aren't enough to pay a living wage. So
right,
it overseas or nothing. Or make it that you can do it for fun. You can do it as a side project, and they will publish you. Yes, but you won't see money more than to make an asado, a barbecue, an Argentinian barbecue. Um, so it's always overseas, and before internet it was overseas through some manager that could be shady.
yeah.
And these days you can do it yourself, but it's still hard. I'm starting to get an idea, I try to reply everybody on Twitter.
Hmm.
I do my best to at least a little thank you. And some days it's overwhelming. I can't imagine being a guy people actually want the attention. I can't imagine what would be to have that amount of email sent, and that's not their actual work job, because the editor's job is not to reply my cold emails. The editor's job is to make the books.
Right.
It is, but well, you have to keep trying. I kept trying, and somehow,
Well,
yeah, I'm blessed.
I think, I really think it's become the job of the editorial staff to, go online and look at artwork on, that's on, the social medias, because that's how they're finding the new artwork, the new artists for new titles, because it isn't go to New York Comic Con and meet the editor and get a job as it used to be. Um, yeah, it's different. So yeah, and listen, it's always good to respond to people when they're saying, "Hey, I really like what you're doing," because you never know who's saying that. It could be somebody who 2 years from now is a person who's going to hire you. You have no idea.
Yes, absolutely. But I'm I'm very shy. I don't like the attention on me specifically. I love to see people talk about my work, but not about me.
Sure.
But I'm honestly thankful that people likes my work.
Yeah.
I find that they tell me, "Hey, this is cool," and I can't help but trying to reply. And there's a lot sometimes. At least
Right.
I'm sure it's not like I got thousands of messages. I hope someday. but
Yeah.
but when you're working, you're with home staff, with the kids, one thing here there, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But I think it's important I believe it's important to reply to. Yeah, I saw what you say, and I really appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah, because
Um,
also for some people, it's like, I don't know. Maybe not, but it's also like it's kind of like, oh wow, like I really think this person's amazing, and it's a little nerve-wracking maybe for somebody to say, hey, this is great, like because they don't know. Maybe a
yes,
little.
yeah,
I don't know. I'm always try to be sensitive to how other people might be feeling when they because I don't know. It's a scary world out there just to say,
there,
I think you're amazing.
there's an Italian artist that I knew through one shop that I did end doing, one design shop, and she said, you have to talk to uh I'm so bad for names. The guy from Moon Knight and the
S-
artist,
oh yeah, yeah.
the artist. Well,
So,
you have to talk to him. He's so
right,
cool, and your work is more or less with his style. And I say, yeah, I can't just talk to this guy as cool as he is and say, hey, I'm Sebastián. I want to be your friend.
right.
I
Wait,
can't do that.
are you talking about Greg Smallwood or are you talking about Declan Shelby?
Shelby.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and he's great. And she
He's great.
went and talked to Shelby and told him to talk to me, because she obviously is way more extroverted than I am.
Yeah,
And he was great. And I don't know, we just a couple of words. We were not friends or anything, but yeah, it's. I'm not the kind of guy that makes friends. I'm a very very lonely, antisocial guy, and shy and awkward, and these situations are very hard for me, because when
yeah,
you add the language, that I think I'm pretty good, but it's not enough I know I make mistakes, and my natural shyness and everything. I would like to say no to everybody that asks me to
yeah.
be in a podcast, but I don't feel like, I feel like saying no. It's like, oh, you feel it, you're a big deal, you don't give interviews.
I it's funny. I mean, I've listened. People say no, and I would say the majority of the reason that people say no is that they're really, really uncomfortable of either how they're going to look or how they're going to sound.
I
And
am.
yeah,
I absolutely am. But I also feel like, okay, there's this guy that wants me, and I'm so honored of people thinking that I'm worth talking to. It's so good, and I'm so thankful about that, that I can say no.
yeah.
You
Well,
know, even though all the fibers of my body say no, you can't. You're awkward. You can't be in front of a camera.
sure.
I can't say no. You know,
I
it feels bad.
Oh man, like, and it's funny. I mean, I went to art college, and there was video cameras all the time. People filming stuff. I hated being on the camera. Never like. I mean, if someone pulls a video camera on me and says, "Okay, say something," I'm like, "Oh," I clamp right up. Um, but the thing is like with when there are people doing things, and I see what they do, and I go, "Oh, this is really, really exciting." Like when it's if I'm reading something, I'm like, oh, this writer's got some great stuff. Like you had I think it was on does D. Cunif colors We Ride Titans, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
he's
He's
incredible.
phenomenal. The nicest guy too. Like and like but like when I saw your work or anybody's work that I go, oh, like that I know what it takes to make a comic book. Like I've drawn comic books, I've written comic books, I've colored comic books. I've done all those jobs, and I know when I see something that's not the average comic book thing, and I go, "Oh, this is really interesting." That comes from an interesting person. That doesn't come from just a person who just sits in in a black room and doesn't, like there's something happening, and so you might be shy, but the thing is like your artwork isn't shy, and there's a
Yeah.
magic that you're exhibiting, and I want to know like what that magic is. So I'm gonna
Yeah, that's an interesting way to see it. Um, I will say from my personal experience that it's like putting there in the art everything that I can put in real life. You know, I'm the guy that in a family reunion is sitting in a corner playing with the kids because doesn't want to be part of, I don't know, political discussions or
sure.
all the grown up stuff. And I'm thinking now that I put all that in the art and in the stories that I try a lot to. I have a lot of ideas, you know, and
Yeah.
and I
No,
talk to friend writers and I say, hey, I have an idea. Will you be interested in always asking permission first because you can send ideas to people. Would you be interested in working on this? Luckily, I had people say yes.
yeah.
Um, that's all my writing. You know, sending weird ideas to people. I
No,
can't organize that into stories.
I totally get that. I totally like I relate to that so much. That was my writing in the in art school, and then my writing in in the 90s was I had an idea, and I would then go talk to a writer, someone who I thought, because it said
Yes,
writer next to their name, they know how to write. And I would say, okay, well, hey, here's this thing. And then like we would work on it, or if a script came in, and wasn't up to par, I would be like, okay, we can still make this hat work and end up in the right space, but like we need to move some stuff around. And you would call the editor and you say, hey, if I just move a few things around, is it okay? And they'd be like, sure. The whole goal was to make the comic as good as possible.
we
Um,
we we have a natural fear to editors, and they turn out to be very cool people in general.
oh, for sure. Like, listen, the, I would never have done the things I did if it wasn't for the editors. I mean,
Yes,
they're smarter than us. They know like
absolutely,
because they can
absolutely.
see the stuff and they go, oh, okay, no, you know what you I have to trust you at this point. And if they don't trust you, they're not going to let you do it. So and it's
Yeah.
their job, so it's
Well,
fine.
my style of writing is like you have balls of goo, and you
Yeah.
throw them to the window, and some stick and some don't.
Sure.
That's the way I write.
Yeah.
And there's my partner, that has to sort out that goo and
Right.
make it actually work, because they what they do for me is magic. It's
Right.
taking my goo and making it interesting, and obviously putting all their incredible work and make a story from goo.
Goo. Yeah.
That's wizardy.
Well,
I don't understand
I
how it
hate to
works.
I hate to say this to you, but you're gonna write something because like because just like the artwork that you put up on Twitter, like I'm just using the Spider-Man drawings as an example, but um, that unbridled fun that you're showing is going to come out like that's going to come out in page work. Like that's going to become page work. Like your pages are going to be that work. And but those stories, that goo,
Yeah,
that goo are those after before and after work drawings. You're going to once go like, normally I would throw this glob of goo at a certain writer and let them figure it out. But you know what? I like this glob of goo. Let me see what I can do with it.
but yes, yeah, it's all a matter of, well, we are in a business that is about, trying, jumping to see what happens.
Yeah.
We can't be doing comics if we didn't have that suicidal impulse of saying,
Yeah.
I'm doing comics. Wow. And how do you do comics? I have no idea, but
Yep.
I'm doing comics. And I will look online. I will email people. I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea how there isn't a path that I can say to people, you have to do this and this and this and this.
Right.
Um, or my coloring isn't, I can't stream my coloring. It's a complete mess, my process. Eh, I fear that any colorist one day tell me, hey, how do you do this? And I can't answer. I don't want to show them my files, because I know
I
it's a
just
disaster,
so
and they will be terrified. But getting back to that, yeah, maybe one day I'll try to write. I don't see it happening right now, but it's part of what is of why we do comics, because we try things that we have no idea how to do.
well, and I think it's like, like the thing is that the only way for us to like listen, when it first rained, or when it first got cold, somebody said like we need to make a fire. Like, when it first rained, someone said we need to build shelter. Like this discomfort is what forces us to create things.
Yes,
So the
yes,
idea
absolutely.
the idea of going like, okay, I'm going to write something, like that's the discomfort. And then you go, okay. And then you make the thing like, and you figure it out. Like, I mean, like you said, like you taught yourself like how to do 3D modeling, or, like in SketchUp, because you needed to be able to have these objects repeatable
Yeah,
in your comics.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yes,
it's
yeah, it, it's like I can't do things in a different way.
right.
I can't just like an urge, I have one idea and I write a little bit, and I'm thinking, okay, who will be interested in writing this? And I have and maybe I'm having dinner, and I thought, oh, this will be a good Spider-Man drawing, and I'm sketching it. I'm very, I don't know how I finish a comic. I'm the contrary of focus. I
Yeah.
can't stay focusing. I don't know how I actually do comics. Do full comics. I sometimes I see. Okay, I did like 16 issues in the last year and a half, and I have no idea how I managed to finish 16 issues, because it's, I don't know, it's like magic. You know, when I first read Morrison saying about wizard and all that, I say, oh, okay, this guy, he's so good. But then I kind of understood what he's talking about when about the creation and all that. It's incredible that that you can sit in front of an empty page and sometime later have a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
That that that's magic. And I don't understand how I managed to do it.
It's yeah, I mean, it's a thing like, I mean, I've definitely observed that comic book artists and and writers as well, but I may be more the artist, but like there is an observance of visual storytelling that most people don't have, or at least they're not paying attention to it. And they see like you were saying, the micro gestures, they see all these actions, they see these behaviors, and they go, oh, that's saying this, that's doing
Yes,
this. And they get sort of banked and cataloged in our minds. And so when it comes to like telling a story, there isn't this great sort of like philosophical debate of like how you're going to tell a story. It's this instinctive behavior of
yes, that's so weird because yeah, I know I tried to learn as much as I could back then. Today, yes, but in different ways. And you have Scott McCloud and you have Will Eisner teaching.
sure.
You have to do this, to do that, and it's incredible. But when you're doing the page, you're not thinking in Scott McCloud say this.
Oh,
Will Eisner say you have to. You just think,
yeah.
okay, the robot is big, it's huge, and then you make it go to the edges of the page, and maybe later you understand what you're doing.
Hmm.
Okay, and you understand, yes, going to the edges of the page makes it feel bigger.
Yeah.
But when you're approaching it, it's not something you really uh, rationalize. You just do it.
Yeah.
It's so weird, it's so cool.
It is. It is. And the thing is, but here's the thing, like that unconscious action of, of making that sort of that discovery, oh, this is a good thing. We also make the mistakes the same way. We make
Of
these
course,
mistakes. But
yes,
the distinction is where the artist, and I'm, the term artist, comes into play, is they're able to look at that and go, oh, that was a mistake. Don't do that again.
yes.
Oh, that is successful. Do
That
that again.
doesn't work. Yes, yes. This works. It doesn't work. Yes, yes.
Like have
It's
to, you have to have this internal sort of like ability to look at something. It's like, you might be good at writing mystery novels if you can watch a mystery movie and solve it before the movie's over. Like you go,
yes.
oh, okay, your mind works in that fashion, or whatever the thing is, if you're good at fixing computers or whatever. But if you're able to kind of understand what the system is, you can then kind of, do the thing.
That
Um,
and that happens a lot too with the colors.
yeah,
I still don't understand colors. I know you have to put you have to separate the background from the foreground, and you can do it one way or another. But when I'm coloring, I have no idea what I'm doing, and and it kind of works
yeah, no, it does.
somehow it works. And yeah, I recognize sometimes with time I started recognizing things that yeah don't work. And yeah, yeah, I'm not sure how it is.
You
Because
color,
I can
you
find
color
the
black,
link between I can find the link between learning about it and actually using it. There's
right?
like a missing process in the middle
Well,
where
that's the thing. There, for a busy, full-time comic book artist, there's very little time in between. So so your drawings that you're doing at the end of the day, or before you start working, those those periods, that's actually your learning time. That's when you're able to
Yeah.
do a little experimenting. You might go like, what, I did that thing on that page the other day, and I really like how that came out. Let me just see if I can apply that here and kind of loosen it up or whatever the thing is. And they, because there's no stakes. Who cares? Oh, you didn't get as many likes as you got yesterday. Who cares, right?
Yeah, yeah. But it's important to get to the hookers, because at least I have a very fragile ego. So
Okay.
when so I understand that hookers, how many likes I get. I
Yeah,
understand that, but the feeling of getting like 3 times less like it's a beer because it.
I know. Yeah, sure. It
Okay, so so
anybody who
dealing
says they
with
don't pay
that.
attention is a liar. We all pay attention to it. Even,
No, or uploading an image, a drawing that I love and doesn't get likes, and uploading something else that this doesn't work so and get 1,000 likes, and not understanding how that works, and worrying about, should I do things that I don't like because they will be
oh,
more popular.
yeah,
All that process is yeah, you have to go through that. Is
yeah.
I can't complain. I can complain. I'm doing what I like. We're just finding the little things that we have to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I think no matter what, our brains are unfortunately negatively impacted by by even the positive stuff that happens to us on social media. So I mean, we're victims of it regardless. So we just
The
have,
or the reviews have so much power over my mood, and
yeah.
they shouldn't have that power, but they can destroy
We're
my week.
human. We're human, man. Like, I mean, it's like, what we, it's not that we want everyone to say, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. We just don't want to we want to be liked. We don't want to be unliked, like, so.
I I just want that the people that doesn't like it keep it to themselves.
Yeah,
I,
I know, but
I,
like,
but
there's a
it doesn't work that way, of course.
yeah. No, 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 it doesn't. And, like, listen, unfortunately, in the review business, there's less money in saying I loved it,
Being-
you know?
yes. And I Google a lot myself, my name. I don't reply to people that didn't tag me. I just look it from the from and some people are so mean, but usually the people that it's not professional people writing reviews. they
Yeah.
they take my drawing, they upload it to 9gag. That I don't know why my drawings will be in 9gag. 9gag is full of very nasty people. There are some, and they can drawing in Twitter. A couple of guys will destroy it. And in that moment, I don't care if I have 2,000 likes and my 5 favorite artists say it was cool. I'm thinking in that guy that destroyed me, and that's so
It's
stupid.
so it is very hard to divorce ourselves from these things, to say like,
Yeah.
oh no, yeah. I mean, and sadly, listen, the people who are saying that stuff by and large are not happy. So this is a way for them to try to feel a little bit better. You
Yes,
know,
I understand that, but in the moment, it's very
it doesn't
difficult to.
matter. You can
Yes,
know all that stuff. It doesn't
it,
matter.
it alters my mood so much, and
Sure.
I understand that. Yeah, this guy, especially from this site where that is full of people like this, yeah, I can hear, pay attention, but it won't get out of my head.
Yeah.
um
Keep remembering
no,
Chris Piccolo liked your drawing. That's always a good thing.
yes, that's amazing.
That's an amazing thing.
That's
So
amazing, because because his work in X-Men was so it defined a lot of what I try to do today. And I don't think I have. I tried to copy his style, but same as Madureira, trying to do things different.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
it
it's a constant experiment, you know? I mean, like
yeah,
I think the artists who just keep experimenting and trying and pushing, I mean, they're the ones that we all sort of kind of always want to keep looking at. And that's exciting. Yeah, you know, those, so yeah, keep pushing it. That's, you know, I encourage you to never stop pushing that. Do you use, like you said, you use a tablet? Like, what programs are you drawing with?
I draw on Clip Studio.
Yeah.
I used to color my all the stuff I put on Twitter. I used to color it in Clip Studio, but the comics I color them in Photoshop because
That's
I
exactly.
I know I'm used to work that way, and I always try to color pages in Clip Studio, but I want to to feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
So I
I
experiment a lot in Clip Studio, but Photoshop is like where I go, where I get grounded
yeah.
in a way.
I think Clips. I bought Clip Studio a couple of years ago, and it's a great drawing program. Like, it
Yes,
really is
yes.
phenomenal.
Photoshop try it time and time again to make good drawing brush. They can't.
No.
The inking um, software in Clip Studio is so good, and it was good even before they had when it was like a Japanese program that they made to the first manga studio way back then was incredibly better than anything else
Yeah. No.
for
It's a
inking.
great program, but I'm the same way. I think the coloring in Photoshop just works better.
Yes,
I
I don't know what it is. Maybe the layer styles. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I
yeah,
can't find. I know there are colorists that work in Club Studio
yeah,
and do a great work, but I can't find. I don't feel comfortable yet. But
yeah.
I
I'm
experiment a lot, so it's solid.
Yeah, no, the two. I haven't found the tools to be as robust in Clip Studio for coloring as they are in Photoshop. But the drawing tools, just there's no other choice. Like, it
Yes,
really, yeah,
yes, absolutely. My first digital comic was in Photoshop. That one where they should have fired the editor.
mm,
I, I started working in pencil. I went to digital. I shouldn't in that comic went to digital yet, but yeah, I can't. I won't say that Clip Studio made me better, of course, because it's not the tool; it's the people using the tools. But I never, I was never able to. Even today, when I'm coloring my own pages and I have to retouch some lines, I just close Photoshop and go back to Clip Studio. I take the extra step of doing that to make to make any small detail that I have to fix.
yeah. No, it's. I mean, it's a great tool. It was funny because I was just, when I was looking at your work. And thank you for sending all the work that you did. It was just, it's been a great bunch of days going through all of your stuff. And, you know, I mean, I'm like, he's got to be drawing in Clip Studio. Like, I was doing all this forensic break. Like, I'm like, but I'm like, and I didn't think you were coloring. I'm like, it just didn't look like you were coloring in Clip Studio, and you're not. So that's exciting.
No, no, I guess it it looks different when you color in Clip Studio than you when you color in Photoshop, especially for the kind of coloring that I do. I don't do a coloring that is like classic comic coloring with one light, one base color, and one shadow. I do very the way I am. I just do brushes,
Yeah,
no brushes, no paint strokes here and there, and try to make it look good. So
yeah,
for that, Clip Studio isn't good yet.
yeah. Well, yeah, and you did color Black Beacon, right?
Yes,
Yeah. So like if you're listening and you want to see like what, the coloring in that is phenomenal. It's great. Your palette is phenomenal, and
Thank
just
you.
the effect is great. So definitely check out Black Beacon, because it's a great example of like you going like all the way out there with your work.
Yeah,
So,
in fact, and the book that I'm doing for, well, it's for Dark Horse. It wasn't announced yet, but you can find in some sites.
okay.
Um, I'm halfway to, and I'm having fun with that too.
Okay.
It's a more grounded sci-fi story, but the coloring is, when you learn to color, you try to make it look real, and after some time you realize that you don't have to make it look real.
Yeah.
You can use green here, where you can make a red sky that you will never see, but it will work for the page.
Yeah.
um and I'm doing that for that book. And I colored. I made I have a full book for Comixology that wasn't announced yet too, either, and I colored that too.
Okay.
And I think it's looking good because it's supernatural, and I went to I did I wasn't grounded there, to make it look. I didn't need to make it look real.
Realistic. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that the color there is looking great too, if I can say so.
Yeah.
Um,
When do you think the first off, when do you think the comicsology thing might it would be something like this fall?
I have no idea. I'm working on the last cover.
Okay.
It's all done. I have to send the last cover, I don't know, tomorrow or tomorrow. I have to send it this week. I
Well,
have I have it inked, and I have to color the last cover.
okay.
Upload the TIFF, the final files. That's part of the boring part of being an artist. Going page by page, checking that they are all right,
If that's
saving
the
in the,
exciting part, then you're in the wrong business.
yeah.
So
Yes, and I'm all that part is. Oh, and I always say I have to upload it before they ask for it, and they always end up asking for the file, so I postpone it to indefinitely.
sure.
But well, I think that will be good. I didn't put that in the folder, but I can. I can show you a couple of pages
Okay.
if you promise not to make me
I
look
promise.
irresponsible.
I'm not. I will not ruin your reputation. So, is there anything that people can expect cover wise, or something to see, or like what's coming out? Like,
Well, I'm doing the covers for Ninjets. I'm one of the cover artists for Ninjets for Dynamite. That made me very happy because
cool.
Nate Cosby, that's the name of the editor. Nate Cosby trusted me to do the covers of the full miniseries for the first time, and uh, yes, not. I mean, I have this book for Comixology ready to go. I don't know. I'm starting a new project that I can't talk
Yeah,
yet.
I know.
So yeah, there will be work with
Well, that's
my
so yeah.
name published in the following months. There's a lot, thankfully,
Yeah.
to be put. And
Well,
the Dark Horse book that I'm very delayed with that. The editors very very nice with us. The writer had COVID, and it was a big mess. And in the middle, all the work I had lately, and that book fell through the cracks. That book, I think it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be look
yeah.
good.
Good.
So a lot, but I can't say.
Right. No, no, no. Believe me, that's just par for the course. Um, go, this in the description. Find Sebastian's Twitter handle. Follow him on Twitter, and he will let you know when these things are announced and coming out.
Yeah,
Because the work's great, and it's just only getting greater. And it's exciting to see what you're doing. And I really can't wait to see you bring more and more what you put up on Twitter for fun into your pages, because it's that fun. That's the fun that is inside of you that we all respond to. When you get that magic, when you're able to make those quiet talking scenes that we were talking about, and they still feel like that, the big exciting stuff, it's going to be magic, man. It's going to be beautiful.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for pushing me to do that. It feels good, and I haven't thought about that. I mean, maybe yes, but not in a way that having somebody that knows what she's talking about telling me, yeah, you have to do that. It feels good.
It's got to happen, because it is just phenomenal, and it's something that you should share with everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. You cool? Was this good? See, it wasn't that bad. It was
yeah.
totally.
I'm sure I will keep thinking about all the awkward things that I did.
Oh
but
no!
It's the way things are.
It was great. I'm really glad you were here. So, Sebastian, thank you so much for taking the time. This is really wonderful. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more of what you have in store, because it's just it really, like I said, it's super exciting when you post stuff, and I just can't wait to see more of what's happening, especially after you sending me what you did. I'm just like, there's so much that you're doing, and I'm looking forward to everybody getting to see more of this.
Thank you again.
Well, thank you so much, my friend. I will not try to say it in Spanish because my Spanish is horrible. So follow him. Go to Twitter or follow him. You can
that's a good advice.
Yeah, you can follow all my stuff at J. Alex Morrissey. It's everywhere. I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. And until next time, my friend.